Good evening and welcome to episode 7 of the Pentland Meter Triathlete with our guest tonight, Dave Caldwell, and our live audience here at a new venue, in-person audience, and also we have a live audience joining us remotely, which I've just realized I can't see the chat, or maybe if I show chat, maybe I'll see the chat pop up. Just a new addition to the whole thing, having a few folks live, and if I don't see anything popping up in live chat, I will minimize the screen and then we will see them in due course. Welcome everybody, welcome online, and Dave, thanks for joining us. You're feeling okay?
Nice to be here. Partially terrified, but that's my usual state.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's move this around a bit, and without further ado, Dave has sent me some notes, which is going to guide me on this way, which, by the way, is absolutely amazing because it makes my side much easier. So thank you for that. I've got a really good insight. I don't know how we're going to get this all in because it's a Greek tragedy.
That's what you said in the message.
The story is, the more I read, the more I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. So let's see how much of that we can.
I've got atrocious memory, so it's actually useful for me to write it down for the future. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, good. So let's start at the beginning. You lived on a farm, you didn't do much sport. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so I lived on a farm in the southwest of Scotland. So we were always outdoors, always physical, but I was never sporty. I'd kind of run through the landscapes. I was quite strong swimmer as a kid. We had a kind of a beach down beside us, so we were always outdoors, but never sporty. I was just lucky if I wasn't one of the last to be chosen out of football teams and stuff like that. So it was kind of average if I was lucky, which I think is a theme that continued. Yeah.
So there's so much to talk about. Let's fast track through that and get into student life and discovering sport, and then getting into triathlon. Let's just jump straight to that. So
yeah, so I was a small boy moving to young boy, country boy moving to Edinburgh. So I was enjoying the kind of party life, and there was one time a group of us went to the Commonwealth pool just for a swim, and I thought I kept myself in trim, but I couldn't suck in my beer belly, and that was like a wake up call for me to say, right, you need to get this shit sorted out. So I started swimming again properly, a bit of running again, and I gradually kept that going. Kind of 10K was my kind of target at that point, and just kind of kept it ticking over. So yeah, that kind of led into kind of family life and what we did then.
Okay, and then we're going to go straight into the deep stuff. Yeah, because this is where it starts to get fun. We're in 2014, and you watched the TV program.
Yeah, so 2014, I saw the Keltman show on the Keltman on the Adventure Show.
So it's all about the Keltman.
Yeah, well, that was the trigger for it. I mean, I just seen these crazy superhumans doing this long distance triathlon over mountains, and I thought that's just weird. I kind of did the classic Google and YouTube type stuff, and I saw Norseman and saw these nutters jumping out the back of a car ferry. And it was just something twigged inside me in terms of that's just beautiful madness. I was kind of drawn to it, never thinking what the story would kind of unfold towards that. But it was at the same time that I'd also done a Tough Mudder with folk at work, and I loved the kind of pushing boundaries, but the camaraderie as well. And the two things kind of just gelled. And I was swimming in a local pool where my son, Jack, was getting a trumpet lesson. And some of the guys, I just got chatting to them, turned out they were triathletes, and they recommended the Pentland Triathlete. So I made contact at that point. So that was the kind of start of the journey.
A referral that wasn't Peter Houston for once, or was it Peter?
No, it wasn't. I can't remember. I think I reached out to the site and just got it in through there,
right? Okay.
And turned up at one of the swim meets. And that was it.
Yeah. And you've been giving me abuse for being a sprint triathlete, but you started there, didn't you?
Yes. So it was North Berwick Novice Tri in 2015, and I was completely bloody clueless. I hadn't really been given a brief in terms of how triathlons work, and I was even to the point, well, did we get changed in the changing rooms between the swim? And they went, no, you just run out through the fire door into the car park. And I was like, that's cool. So I was completely out of it, and I get carried away on the bike, and I started the run, and I thought I was going to die. But I got to the end, and I thought, That's cool.
I just had to interrupt for a second to say that we're going to have to get William Gorrell on here one day, because I heard a story recently that he took 20 minutes in transition because he actually went for a shower.
Really? Somebody's worse than me. I like that.
In his first triathlon, not realizing, thinking that's what everyone did.
There was one other defining moment that for me in terms of the people was that I was sitting beside somebody before the race started, just kind of chatting away. And it wasn't, and he gave me some really solid advice, nice down to earth guy. And I found out afterwards he was actually like the Scottish sprint champion, completely no pretenses, just helping it. I thought, these are cool people, speaking to idiots like me that just run out through car parks.
But you also did a half Ironman in that first year.
So
Aberfeldy?
So I worked up through the next couple of years, kind of moving to standard. I don't think I got to a middle distance on the first year. And I think I started on the standard the next year and then got to Aberfeldy middle. So I was kind of working that kind of sequence.
Okay.
General
so it was an Aberfeldy
was,
sprint. I might have misread that.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right. It's an Aberfeldy sprint on that basis. Yeah.
So you're building up through Loch Lomond?
Yes, that was a cool race. Literally a cool race.
Literally cool.
Because they used to start them in May, yeah. And it was. I remember the boy went adrift and it was middle distance, and we ended up swimming about 3.1k in 9 degrees. Alan Anderson explained afterwards to me that it's actually 9 degrees. We should never have started, but that was kind of fun. But I was in the principle that I got to the end of that, I didn't die. I was always at the back of the pack, but it was like, what with the next distance?
So you weren't thinking Ironman or Celtman or extreme tries?
No. So, not even a glimmer of thinking of that at all.
So what happened? How did this start to become a thing?
So I kind of realised that some of it was just some of the boundaries we put in our head are kind of false. I mean, there's a degree of building some physical capability to deal with it, but for me, I was always back of the pack. For me, it was more about, right, okay, my boundary isn't there. Where is it? So let's kind of try and nudge in it. And I got to doing the half distances with some confidence, and I think it was that year, when was that, 2017, that I did Ironman Edinburgh 70.3, the notorious swim, and also ended up doing the Ben Nevis extreme triathlon, which is a half distance as well.
Braveheart.
Exactly, the Braveheart, which is a little bit more mad. But even then, it was like, okay, maybe I could try the Ironman. So I kind of lined that up. I've got family that stay in Spain, so they helped support me on that.
But before that, at Braveheart, did you have some kind of incident with the track?
Oh yeah. So I was never fast, but I kind of hike marched and a little bit of running on the flat on the way up. But coming down, my weight was an advantage in terms of just kind of hearing it. But I hit some gravel and went over the edge, and there was like shrieks from people seeing me disappear, and just managed to get myself up over the edge of it as well. So I kind of bigged the story up that I fell off Ben Nevis and Braveheart, but it was semi-true. It's all about stories, isn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's all about. By this point, the Ironman and full long distance is a thing, isn't it? So 2018, you're signed up for Barcelona, and this is where the Greek tragedy starts. And it's generally to do with bikes, this Greek tragedy, because there's a consistent theme that starts here and then kind of runs through the story. So tell us about your training for Barcelona Ironman.
So training went quite well. I was following the kind of think plan, which I think a lot of people use for these things, and kind of get towards that. Got to make sure I'm not mixing my own stories up here. The bike issue was on the Hispaman.
No, so this is 1 week after you signed up for Barcelona Ironman.
Okay, sorry, yes, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I nearly won the Thule award. Apparently, if I'd turned up, I would have got it. But I was cycling to work. Bad lights. It was in dark. I ended up hitting some wood that somebody left in the cycle path that had been hidden by the bushes. I hit that somersault in front of a taxi, so I still get kind of flashbacks to traffic, to headlights coming towards me. But I lay in the road waiting for the ambulance to come, and something in my head just went, "You're still going to do this." I mean, my shoulder was crunchy as hell, and I was in a lot of pain, but something in my mind just went, "You're still going to do this." It was 10, 11 months off, but I just thought, right, let's do it. And I managed to get a really good physio, and they helped me kind of get swimming within 6 weeks. Weirdly, doing the front crawl actually, so I've got permanent damage in my shoulder, but regular crawl swimming, it kind of builds up the muscle strength and holds it together. So that was a wee bit of a setback, but if anything, it kind of forged something in my mind. I'm going to do this. What the hell?
So damage to your body or damage to your derailleur, spoiler alert, is a bit of a theme throughout all of this.
Yes.
So we get ready to, so Ironman eventually get to the start line of Barcelona in 2018. And tell us about
that. So this is where, I mean, I've been with the club, most of the social stuff through it. Matt Payden was one of the guys that was part of the club, and we kind of chummed. So it was good having somebody that I knew at the actual event as well. So he kind of chummed me. I think he'd done at least Ironman before, if not Barcelona. So that was all good. Met up with them. Getting on the swim line was quite something because there'd been a storm overnight, and there's still videos circulating of what that swim looked like. It was like you had to kind of dive under the waves as it came crashing in because it was going over people's heads. So once you got through that, it was nice and flat, but it was quite dramatic to start, quite psychological to stand on the start line, seeing these monster waves taller than people coming at you. But once you're past that, it was.
So I'm realizing that apart from the body damage, the bike damage, there's another theme that's running through here. So top tips for people: if you're entering a race and Dave's in the same race, the weather's probably going to be lousy. So after Edinburgh, you then got this experience and various other experiences like this coming up. But what's that about?
Indeed, yes. That's all just chance, or it kind of adds to the story. It adds to the experience as well. It's mad.
So talking about adding to the story, I keep swinging. Warren, who's listening online, and I keep swinging the weather in Frankfurt in 2019 at 39 degrees C. So it does add to the story. I completely agree. But for ordinary people, that kind of thing is the peak. You do an Ironman, and you've for me, that was like, I've done that. I got the T-shirt. I never need to do that again. That is as far as I want to push myself. But that's just the very beginning, because the next heading on these notes is extreme races, and there's just a list that goes on and on and on after that. So how did Barcelona 2018 translate then into all of these other things?
So it was. I was never on the pretense I was going to do extreme triathlons. It was never. I thought that would be outside of my boundaries. But Barcelona Ironman was okay. I'm not fast. It was 13 hours 12. Whole chunk of that in transition time, but we'll come back to that.
Not having a shower, hopefully.
No, but it's good as. But I sat in the recovery tent, and I'd finished, and I'd heard all about the emotions that you have. I didn't have that. I was pleased. I was all that stuff in the recovery tent, and I just thought, wait a minute, this isn't the end of the story. Maybe I've got a chance of doing even something dafter. So again, something just clicked in my head, and I thought, okay, I'm not done yet. This is almost a kind of a training race. A
training race. That's what he wrote in the notes. Realized it was a training race. Right. So extreme. Let's knock through some of these, because that still isn't the whole story. Hisperman.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. 2020, COVID.
Yeah, so I was training hard for Hisperman, and obviously kind of COVID hit, but I was still training hard, and I kind of realized that, wait a minute, I need to, in fact, that drifts on to support and call in terms of Kiltman 21. Yeah, so basically I kept training. I kept training. And it was one of those ones, but we think we're going to be okay. We're thinking, and it was like 2 weeks before the target date where they just pulled it. Rightfully so. I was okay with it. But I thought, I don't want to lose this. I want to keep it going.
So you get to do that in 2021, but before that, you're with Cole.
Yeah.
For those who don't remember or didn't see the Cole interview, just talk us through this whole sausage malarkey.
So I'm pleased I've made so many friends in the Pentland Club. It really means a lot to me. But Cole particularly, we've formed quite a bond, and we've done races tic-tac. So obviously Aberfeldy is a common theme amongst us as well. I finished it at Braveheart, I finished the swim at Braveheart, and Cole had turned up in transition 1. He was in holiday just down the route, but he got really early to help me out with that. So there's a theme of doing races kind of flick-flack, and he also did Barcelona as well, and Kiltman. So I'd applied for Hisperman. It was deferred. Kiltman was going to hit because it's Scottish nationals in the country. So I supported him on it, and it was during his race that he kind of showed his nutrition plan, including these sausages, and I was like, "What the hell are we on about here?" And he said, "No, they kind of trust me." So I was feeding them sausages. I think it was towards the end of the bike, just when you need the salt, I guess, and the protein and kind of kicking in, and it revived him. And ultimately, when I was on a bike run at Keltman as well, Keltman 22, it made a hell of a difference just to that tail end of that part of the event.
An alternative form of race nutrition, but you've got to do what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you get to do Hisperman 21.
Yeah.
So you've supported Cole, you've delayed the Hisperman 20, and you finally get out there. And we've got one of the themes recurring here. So talk us through Hisperman 2021. Where is that anyway?
So it's midway down the Spanish coast on the Mediterranean side. Right. What would you?
So bike ride, bikes and issues, one of the themes.
Yeah. So it was a week before I was due to go out that I managed to kind of rip the derailleur off my own target bike for some God known reason. Panic, send a message out to the club, and Frank says, you can come and have a look at my bike. And it was a cool bike, so like 4 big spokes and like a chariot wheel type thing. I thought that's kind of wild. So tried it out. Didn't have a lot of time to practice on it. Took it out to Hisperman. And Hisperman's quite a challenging kind of bike ride, mostly uphill. I got to about the 28 miles from home bit, and it just froze in first gear. I could not get it out of first gear. I was going to.
So you've broken another derailleur.
Yeah.
Someone else has this time.
Shifter. Okay. I'm not technical. Yeah. I'd love to say it's because of my power, but it's just pure black.
So you had to do 24 miles in first gear.
Yeah. Pedaling like a food mixer, trying to go on it.
And we're talking 4 kilometer swim. I mean, this is full length in the extreme kind of types of environments.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be 4.1 kilometers, but I had a bit of a sighting challenge. You start off in the pitch dark and it's black, so I'd sighted on these hotel lights in the distance. Of course, 5 minutes into the swim, the hotel switches the lights off, and I'm all over the place. So I end up kind of sighting like a meerkat.
But at least you stayed on the road because other people were getting pulled out of the trees.
Yeah, so the cycle was fairly, so it's 3,500 meters of elevation gain, and we went into the old road, and I was kind of passing and being passed by this guy, and I came around the corner, and they were pulling his bike out of the trees. He'd hit a corner bad, and there was an ambulance sitting beside of it. So you got that in your mind. I couldn't work out if he was okay or not. Turns out at the end of it, he was okay.
Was that before or after you stopped and sat on the side of the road?
It was, so I was coming out of that, and I was just broken. It had been probably done about 2,500 meters gain at that point, and I was done, and I just got off the bike, sat it down. I sat at the side of the road for it felt like 5 minutes. It's only probably 1 or 2, and I just rewarded myself. Said, "You've got family here supporting you. You want to do this? Let's give it another shot." So I got on the bike and kept going.
And I think that's one of the recurring serious elements of these kinds of events. It's just a mind over body, over matter, over everything. Yeah. Forcing your brain to not give up, to just keep going.
Definitely, yeah. It's a kind of psychological thing. And knowing you can push the boundaries. The boundaries are, a lot of them are in your head. Once you know you can, it's like, okay, right, where is it really? You can take those things away to a certain degree.
And then nutrition as well is really important on anything like this. And on that run, you learned a whole bunch of things about how not to do nutrition.
Yeah. So I kind of found out that when you're putting a lot of effort into the bike, the blood goes to the legs and away from the stomach, and you can't digest things properly. So the last 2 hours of the bike, I wasn't really taking anything. It was another 2 or 3 hours in the run before I got even close to it. I ended up actually having to, get rid of my stomach contents and other ways as well, coming up the back end of that gorge.
Coming up the back end of that. What do you mean that? You mean the back end of the race? Well, everyone was understood you.
Let's just not probe that question anymore, okay? But I thought my race was over. I actually said the support crew were with me. I was like the last guy, so they were kind of the sweepers. And I just looked up at him and I said, right, okay, said, don't finish my race, don't finish it. I still get emotional thinking about it. He put his hand on my shoulder and he says, Dave, the bad stuff gone, we're going to get you to the end. And they did, and I managed to take in a bit more fuel after that.
And then on your tattoo there on your arm, which you can just see in the shot, we then started talking about Caldwell 2022.
Yeah, no, there's a story. So Cheltenham 2022. So the long story short, it ended up being I did not finish, but I didn't. Training was disrupted. I got in the height of training, I got a fairly bad dose of COVID. Got out of that, and I then had a fairly bad bike crash, cracked ribs and stuff like that. Bike crash, yeah. So I was down 40% on the fitness level had at Hispamar. Don't tell me about Keltman's. Hasn't quite the ascent that Hispamar. Hispamar is probably one of the toughest in circuit. But I had a tough swim. I'm used to cold water, but for some reason, my wetsuit added in a lot more water than it should have done. It was an 11 degrees centigrade swim, 3 kilometers. So I knew the back end of the swim I was really cold. And by the time I got out, I was shivering uncontrollably. I ended up actually being physically sick, and I thought my race was over until Captain Call said, "Right, Caldwell, star jumps now." So he got me going, and I got on the bike. But I really didn't think I was going to be doing very much in terms of the rest of that race. But
despite the magic sausages, which were helping.
Yeah. Because my stomach was really upset. It wasn't taking stuff, so I wasn't taking on a lot of nutrition. My coach actually said he thought it was a miracle I got to T2 at all. I'd only had 10 minutes to spare, and I could not make it up on the run. My legs were gone. That was the year of the bad storm. So the Garve headwinds were solidly 35 miles an hour in your face, so you felt like you were going standstill. So I was pretty broken by that point. But I sat at the top of the hill, and I just thought, right, I've emptied myself. I've reached my boundary in this race, and I felt almost quite kind of serene and happy with myself that I'd done so much. But yeah, it's still a little bit of a unfinished business. But beautiful race, great people.
You've got to have unfinished business in life for these things.
You've got to remember your boundaries are, but that was kind of false boundaries for me to a certain degree.
I've got to jump in with a little bit of an in-house joke from this last weekend. Some people know that Warren, who's listening online, obviously just did Caldwell. I was there as part of his support team, and you talked about the difference between the bike at Hispamar versus this. Hispamar was tougher because apparently, according to someone that was on the sidelines while we were waiting for Warren, the bike ride at Caldwell is really easy if you're a proper biker. This is literally what someone said to us, and we were kind of like, right, okay, we're not talking to you anymore. So
Kelman's got less elevation gain on the bike, but it's an extra 20 kilometers. So it's not.
You're starting to sound like that guy. It's really quite hard. That's almost what that guy was saying, but never mind. We'll move on. So then 2023 is the big year.
Yeah, so I was ready to sign up for Keltman again. I wanted to kind of get that done. And during that time, I'd been quietly applying for Norseman. But the ballot is just silly. It's like 5,000 people going for 250 slots. So you kind of keep going on that front. And we had friends over, and it was the next morning, and I'd nursing a really bad hangover. And I got this phone call from this chap, and it was like my brain was not processing it. But when he finally said it's Horrick, you've been given a place at Norseman, it was just an absolute surreal moment. Kind of saying, right, you're in. So it was like sheepishly going to Alison and saying, "Oh, by the way, I've been given a place at Norseman this year." But yeah, that was like wow.
And that ended up in the official video, because I remember seeing you taking that phone call in the official video.
Yes, yeah, that was embarrassing. I'm glad they cut out a lot of that, because I was just basically incoherent. Yeah.
So we're training.
Yep.
And guess what happens? Anyone want to guess? Bike crash. Yeah. So talk us through training and how we're still in this Greek tragedy.
So again, training was going okay. I must admit that the Hispamar training was better quality because everybody was working from home permanently. So I feel like commuting miles, you don't necessarily really, and with this kind of scale of training, you want to get it kind of hidden into your daily life. So commuting is the one way of doing it. So it wasn't great to start with, but yeah, I hit some black ice in January of 2023. and came off fairly badly. Kind of put my intercostals, I kind of buggered up my wrist and stuff like that. So it was kind of disrupted at that point as well. So yeah.
But it led to something else.
Yes.
More
so
interesting, serious.
yeah. So I was 2023 was an interesting year for me, knowing a bit more about myself. So I went to the physio. It's the one in Balerno. Apologise, I can't remember the name. And I said, okay, I've bust my wrist, got sore ribs, and it's not recovering. And she kind of checked it out and said, no, okay, that's just normal. You just need to give it a bit of time. Gave me a medical, and she says, you got a really low heartbeat. And I said, yeah, that's just kind of like
that's how fit I am.
That's bullshit. And she went, no, you've got a really low heartbeat. And I said, well, I got a works health assessment. I've got this kind of minor heart defect. Two minor heart defects that the GP says you can lead a normal life with. And she just paused and she looked at me and she said, you think you lead a normal life? So I kind of researched it and found out that it's basically the electrical impulse only goes down one side of your heart, and it impairs your performance by 10 to 20% and your recovery by 20 to 30%. So it kind of felt cathartic for me that I've always been at the back end of the pack. And I kind of thought, despite training, and I thought, okay, that's actually okay. So I felt kind of good, but then I thought, shit, I've got Norseman to do. I've got to kind of up my game a little bit. So it was cathartic, but also a little bit kind of awakening as well.
And then I remember being out at Threepmere at some time, and I can't remember exactly when it was, but it must have been about this time, because you asked me to take a photograph of you, and there was just the two of us up at Threepmere. Do you remember that?
No.
You were in the water up to your knees, but what else was unusual about that photograph?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was wearing a kilt. And
you were.
The
and I ended up on your Facebook profile. I was very proud, actually. Your Facebook profile picture was there for years, that picture I took of you in the water. But it was more about how the kilt becomes a thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a novelty. Because I'm never going to be anywhere near the pointy end of the race, I'm thinking, let's make it kind of fun. So when I finished at Hispaman, which was beautiful, I put on the kilt to go to the t-shirt ceremony, and it was like I had to walk a mile and a half to get it. So all these Spaniards going, "What the hell?" So it was a kind of a theme that got kind of fun. So kind of kept doing that, and that was one of my
and your plan for Norseman.
Objectives for Norseman was to finish with my family wearing the kilt, just for a bit of kind of novelty. So that was in any triathlon, but especially these ones, you've got to know your why. You've got to get your visualization sorted, that you've got to know what you're really getting at the end of the day to kind of give you that drive when you're in the dark periods.
Yeah. So we've got to keep going because there's a lot here, but and it's all amazingly detailed and interesting. But let's talk about race week arriving and then race day. Just do all that in a one.
Yeah. So what was really good was that all of my direct family came, but also my brother said he was going to come, so came with his wife. So there was all of us, and also my mate Alan, who's my coach, and I kind of know through the extra stuff, was with me as well. But it was unseasonably beautiful weather, warm weather in Norway, so it was absolutely stunning. So we got to see all of that, but it felt like cheating because the water, which is usually about 11-12 degrees, was up about 16 or 17. So I brought some Scottish budgie smugglers and went swimming in them. While all the Filipino swimmers were covered in neoprene, there's Dave and his bloody budgies.
20 degrees colder than their norm, but much warmer than.
I overcame my shyness to do that.
That's an image I wish you hadn't put in my head, but never mind.
I'll send you the photos.
Please don't. So yeah, race day.
Yes, so the weather had changed a bit more Scottish, which is quite good, a bit kind of cooler on that front. People know Norseman, the big thing is the ferry jump. So just the whole being there, I've been dreaming about this thing for 8 years. Seen it in videos, it's surreal. Even kind of driving into the area, it was like surreal. There was hairs going up the back of my neck. It was really quite emotional. So all of it, meeting friends I've spoken to online, some kind of famous triathletes as well. But actually being on the ferry and jumping in the water, that was just absolutely bizarre and beautiful as well.
In the dark.
In the dark. Well, it's the way Norseman does it. It's dawn is usually broken, so it's not dark. It's just at that kind of cusp.
That sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. So I mean, the swim jump was incredible. I knew my fitness numbers weren't quite where they needed to be, so I had to be really kind of ruthless, sticking to my numbers on the bike and knowing that people would be passing me. Are we going to?
So guess what happens on the bike? Anyone want to take a guess on the bike ride?
Crash?
No. What happens
Yeah.
in the races? He crashes in training. What happens in the races?
Stabilizers fill
Mechanism stabilizers, Philip. Exactly.
I wish I had them.
We end up with another mechanical.
Yeah, and these are all different bikes. The only theme in here is me and probably my bad kind of maintenance. But my gearing was starting to prove a problem, but it was shaking itself loose. At the bottom of the last major ascent, they stuck completely. So it was about 20 minutes of panicking trying to get this kind of sorted out because it was stuck right down in the kind of the easy gear. And they were trying to, and I went, right, don't muck it up. I don't want it to end up the other way around because I'll never get up that hill. So yeah, I ended up being at the top of that hill. Fine, got there. Yeah, it's a tough hill after 5 tough hills. But my legs were going like food mixer again. And people say it's all descent afterwards. It's not. There's some flat bits and there's some easy descents that I was not managing to get. I was starting to really panic about even missing the run cut off. I took some stupid decisions in terms of getting into aero and the big descents as well. So I was starting to panic about making the cut off for the run.
Okay, but looking at your arm, there's a tattoo.
Yeah.
So talk us through the finishing stages. This is the run now.
Yeah, so I was I surprised myself and my brother by how strong I was on the run. I managed to get to the bottom of Zombie Hill, 25 kilometers in. And we knew there was a threat of bad weather because it had been warm. It was classic thunderstorms coming.
Another theme of extreme tri is thunderstorms and bad weather.
Yeah, that's it. It's extreme weather, landscapes, all of that stuff.
They deliberately build it into the whole thing.
Indeed. So we already knew that the mountain was closed, so people wouldn't be going to the very top. I knew I wasn't getting the black t-shirt by any stretch of the imagination. And it was about 10k into the run that they finally told me you're on track for the run cutoff. So there's a point in photograph where I'm just ecstatic, hands in the air, goes to the top and behind me. But I get to the bottom of Zombie Hill, which is 9 kilometers of 900 meters of hairpins, tarmac all the way up. And that's where Fraser, my son, joins me to be on the run. We're about halfway up there, and the heavens, just this massive crack of thunder, flash of lightning, and the heavens just descended. I've never seen water like it. It was bouncing off the cliff face on top of us. It was coming down the road and shooting up our ankles. But for me, I was just smiling like a big kid, thinking, I'm going to finish in a thunder and lightning storm in a kilt. This is super cool.
And you did?
Did. Yeah, so we were near the top of that hill. There was still 10 kilometers to go on the high plain, but there had been lightning strikes on that high plain, so they decided to close that 10k. So motorbike rider turns up and says, you're finished when you go round the corner. So the entire family were there with Alan with my kilt. So put on the kilt, went up and kind of finished, and that's now my profile. One of my profile pictures is finishing with Fraser.
So when I envisaged this next bit in the planning, I had thought I would be sitting on that side of the table, and I was then going to reach behind me like you are going to do now. You're going to reach behind yourself and pick up the thing on the counter there, because as a result of this, at the very back there, as a result of this, on the back of that is a name, 2023 on the other side.
There we go.
On the other side, there you are. And that was because of Norseman.
Yeah, and that's honestly one of the biggest moments, and kind of a bit dramatic in my life, but I never won anything apart from a plastic donkey in Mallorca in 1983. So getting that, and it was funny because Frank was reading through the kind of roll call of it, and he'd been who's done what, and he'd missed me. I thought I'd send that email. And then he surprised me, and I felt like a right imposter because I've never been involved as much in the club as I'd wanted. I love it socially. Sometimes the schedule doesn't quite work out, various different reasons. So I felt a bit of an imposter, but the way that everybody reacted to me getting it, I thought I'm really proud.
So what I really liked about talking to you before and looking at these notes was what I'm trying to do with these podcasts is to do the what happened. And to be frank, there's a lot of what happened in your story, but to get through the what happened into the why. And you've got some really lovely and genuine whys underneath all of this, what happened, and your thoughts about the club itself, and obviously getting the trophy in 2023 as club champion is part of it, but one of your kind of core messages is that you wanted to kind of just recognize the club.
I mean, wholeheartedly. I mean, it's such a lovely club. Some of my early engagement with the club wasn't what I wanted to be, because when I started getting the events, and I'm genuinely really, really slow, and I was embarrassed how slow I was, and I wanted to get fitter before I kind of joined the rest of the club. But socially, it feels like a family. It feels like my people. It's good, and I just want to get a bit more involved and just kind of recognise that it means a lot to me, even though it looks like I've been in the periphery. There's been kind of reasons for
and
that.
often training doesn't quite match with specific goals and objectives that we all are working on. That we don't have the most diverse set of training kind of offerings, but actually that's almost not what the club is mainly about. I've discovered myself in the last couple of years. It's much more about the people and the support and the kind of friendship. And so sometimes we can be a little bit fringe because your training isn't necessarily lining up with the thing.
I mean, I had some fairly weird training I needed to do, so it was not going to kind of work in.
Yeah, but no one wants to join you in the bike throwing off, kind of on smearing yourself on the road training programs that you seem to.
They just don't want to be associated with my calamities, thinking they're infectious.
Yeah, quite possibly. But 2023 wasn't just about Norseman, because you also then had another discovery that's become an important thing for you.
So I don't talk about this a lot, but I want to. So after Norseman, I was getting really worried about my memory, my short-term memory. It's been a kind of theme through my life. And I was going back to my GP, and I was getting genuinely worried that it was early onset dementia. It was getting to that particular point. And I think it was the night before I was going to the GP again. And my son Jack says, "Dad, I think you should get tested for ADHD. And he's got neurodiverse friends." And I kind of like paused, and I thought, I'm 57 years old. That can't be right. I kind of looked at it. I went to the GP. I got the cognitive test, which basically shows your mental capacity. I get 29 out of 30. So they kind of ruled out dementia, but I was in the top end of the scale for ADHD, to my complete surprise. But the questions were an eye-opener in terms of the kind of symptoms on it. You look at the different characteristics of it, and I thought that kind of explains a lot for me, including my shit transitions. I mean, 13 minutes in Ironman Barcelona T1, that's just outrageous. So it was kind of cathartic. It kind of explained a little bit of me. I mean, I've compensated a lot of them. I think they call it high functioning ADHD, but there's way techniques, but inherently there's certain things that are a bit of a challenge for me, short-term memory being some of that, and some weird symptoms.
So you and I talked about this 6 months plus ago. Kind of just came up in passing one night at one of the socials that we were having with the club. And it resonated a bit because my own daughter said something like that to me. I've not done any tests like you've done. I've not followed up on, but one of my 3 kids said to me, "Had I ever thought about that?" And I was like, and then there's a sign, or there's something, was the kind of thing that we pointed out to me. So when you said that, I was quite intrigued by that. And I thought, if we do get you on, this is something that we want to be looking at. So I'm just throwing something up on the screen, because I also researched an article, and an article from 2023 came up, or 2022, in a triathlon online magazine, and it was basically headed what it's like to be a triathlete with and being neurodiverse. And I can share the link for that article underneath this pod when it's on YouTube, if anyone's interested. But I became really interested in the whole idea that triathlon draws people potentially with neurodiversity into it. And actually, if this article, I clipped this out, there's this ADHD autism overlying bubble of one versus the other and where they overlap. I won't go through all of that with the time, but I like this clip because underneath it had this heading for the next section where it said triathlon is a great place for neurodiverse minds to thrive.
Totally.
And this whole article is about how triathlon are going to really help people with neurodiverse to focus and to channel energy.
It's a massive outlet. I mean, for me, the key things that resonated for me was you've got a natural deficiency in dopamine. So you're kind of drawn to doing things that are adrenaline, kind of create that dopamine. recognition's in there. You hate failing. So that's been my constant theme in terms of go do some crazy stuff, get recognition, and also you don't want to fail. Massive driver on that in terms of making that part of your life. So yeah, it just all started to kind of resonate in terms of kind of for me. I think there's various scales of it.
But I don't know enough about it by miles to go any further with this, but I sometimes feel you look around and you see people and you think you're definitely benefiting
talk about
from
it a lot
being
in the
this
extra community. It's an outlet.
Good. All right, let's jump on, because I don't think I'm an expert enough on that subject to do it any more justice, but I'll share that article in case anyone else wants to read it. So post Norseman, and you then start thinking about the future and what else, and Sahara Man is something, but I think what comes out of this, let's move into the Global Extreme Triathlon group that you end up starting. Talk us through that, and I think Sahara Man's a part of that story as well.
Well, I'll blend the stories together. So when I first started doing extreme triathlons, I'd really benefited from using, they call it the Ironman Journey. There's like a Facebook group for that, and I kind of researched. There was nothing really there for the extreme triathlon side of things. So I reached out to that X-Tri World Tour that kind of runs a chunk of the race, including Norseman and Keltman. And Stuart McInnes himself came back and said, "Yo, you can crack on, set it up." So I did that, and it grew really, really quickly. Like hundreds of athletes within a matter of weeks. So over the 6 years that, and I actually set it up with 3 other friends, including Cole. So he calls back into my story in terms of setting this up. But what we kind of realized was that there was 4 times as many independent races as there were in the X-Tri World Tour. So we basically, not just a Facebook group, we created race catalogues, we pulled together knowledge articles and stuff like that, end up building a website, hosting all of these. Also, I built a team of about 20 people that help coordinate it, and also advisors, so a lot of people with experience of doing races and running races to work out what we want to be doing with us, building that capability, the website, as I say, and also bringing on new races as well. Some races already know what to do, some look for some advice. Sahara Man was one of the ones where we brought them into the fold. And I knew I didn't want to do long distance races because it's disruptive in the family, relationships and stuff like that. So Sahara Man, we were out there welcoming them into the Global Extreme Triathlon group.
What are the distances with Sahara Man? Talk us through that quickly.
So they do full distance and half distance. You've got the variety in there. It's a little bit flatter, but it's extreme for different reasons.
Just a lot of sand.
I would take a mountain anytime over sand dunes. It's beautiful, but dear God, it's hard work. And I'm doing another half distance race.
And what about the bike ride in the desert?
So it's really reasonable road quality.
Right,
it's just a kind of a rolling road,
okay.
But again, the scenery, it's sand dunes and escarpments. It's just, it's such a beautiful place. That's part of the theme of these races. You do it in kind of beautiful places.
Okay, we're flying through stuff now, but just to finish the Global Extreme Triathlon group, it's a pretty significant community now. Yeah,
we've got about approaching 3,800 members. So, and we carefully vet them in terms of making sure they're not spammers or scammers. They genuinely want to be doing extreme triathlons, and also it's also race organisers. So I'm kind of messaging with race organisers on a regular basis, just to kind of see what's going on in their world, help promote their races into that community. The whole thing is trying to explain to people that these races are entirely doable. If broken old Scotsman Dave Caldwell can do it, anybody can do it.
On a bike with half a derailleur.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I've got a couple more questions, so we're going to go to any questions from the folks that are here, and also anyone that's online. And while you think about that, I'm just looking at the online comments. Matt, at about 15 minutes into this, when we were talking about the Barcelona swim, he said, "Dave, I still have nightmares about the IM Barcelona swim," and that's you and your bad weather. Warren, when we were talking about Keltman bike ride, he probably not as difficult as running through the desert by the sounds of it, but Warren was saying that he'll obviously need to learn to cycle properly, because he found the bike ride at Keltman quite hard, despite this guy on the side of the road telling us that bike was easy and it was all about the run. So anyone got any questions they want to throw at Dave? We're running a bit long, but we knew this was going to be the case with this one.
Yeah, sorry.
And I've got a couple more just to finish us. Anyone got any questions? No one? No, happy to keep.
Are you going to do Caldwell again?
I promised I would never do a long distance one, but it does feel like unfinished business, and seeing just being on the periphery of the Warren and Sarah, and it's like, oh dear Lord, yeah.
Claire, are you going to do it again?
Absolutely.
Former guest on the show with a similar Caldwell story. Come on, the two of you. That'll be some of this club will be.
I had too many whiskies on Saturday night with my dad, and I messaged one of my Norwegian friends, would you support me in 2027, 60 at do Keltman at 60? So like,
well, I think we've got about 50 odd members in the club. You might have 25 people each supporting you if you can get it together and get out there for.
Get them to bring their bikes.
Well, you'll need that many. I learned that you can change it if there's a genuine reason for changing. So you could use that. But
that doesn't include throwing it in a ditch.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a weird question. The Iron Cowboy shows up in your story. We didn't have time to get into it, but he's on your forum. He's on your group. But you also encountered him in one of these stories on one of the races. Who's the Iron Cowboy?
So James Lawrence is the guy that did 100 Ironman in 100 days, and he actually is race director for Starvation. So he was like, I've had many imposter syndromes in terms of this thing, but it was kind of message with him about his race and him slagging off American triathletes being, oh, they're all kind of soft, they won't do these things. But I was on the first climb out of there, of Norseman on the bike, and this guy said, Dave! As he went past me, I was shouting myself and looked around. It was like James Lawrence. I was like, bastard.
And now he's a signed up member of the group that you.
Yeah, he's one of the early members of it, actually. Yeah, he's one of the early members from the start.
Fantastic. Let's wrap up with what's next. What's the future? What is the next few years apart from a Caldwell somewhere in it?
I don't know. I don't in case, but I definitely want to be doing more of these. I want to be more involved in the club, whatever way that's going to be. I think it's a really great little club. Also, as I kind of switch towards retirement from a day job, I'd like to get more into my hobby job and see what we can do more to help promote these races and kind of build that capability, bring new ones on, help the existing ones survive, because it's a tough gig for running these small races.
Good. Anything
and get
else?
A better bike.
Say again?
And get a better bike.
Go on it. When you retire from your day job, you can go on a bike maintenance course. Dave can help you out. He does all that. Yeah.
Good man, yeah.
You can stop all these mechanicals. Anything about just wrapping up and closing? Because I know for you, and I love the fact that you were really kind of leaning into this event, telling the story was important to you. So anything else you want to say just to close off? These are some wild and crazy stories. And
no, I think the main thing is just to say, I know it sounds kind of crazy. I'm really I'm lucky in terms of the life I've led within this, but honestly, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I would encourage people to try, because they're just great. But the triathlon community, really, it's more of a family than a sport. That's what I kind of feel. So it's good. Long may it continue.
Brilliant. Warren just said Keltman 2028. So I think we need to start.
Because he's doing comrades with you in 27, is it?
Shh, don't say that. Don't say that. It's a secret.
Edit that out there.
Exactly. Okay, you can see what we were talking about before we started this, Warren. Anyway, on that note, Dave, thank you so much. An amazing story. Oh my goodness, and probably still so much of the story still to tell. So we might have to get you back in a few years to get the rest of the Greek tragedy, but hopefully less tragedy, more success and delight and kind of fun and games. So
I just thank the club for inspiring me and keeping me going. It's been great.
Well, says thank Dave. Cat's out the bag now. Thank you very much for joining us, Dave. Thank you. Thanks to the online listening in people. And we haven't got the next person signed up, so I'll be taking suggestions when we cut off here. But we will keep you posted on who's next very, very soon in July. Okay. Thanks everyone. All the best. Bye bye.
Thanks.